Okay, guys, very welcome back to the show. I've got a very special guest on the show today, a man that appeared in the two biggest wrestling companies in the world over his storied career, Mr. Chuck Coates. How are you doing today, man?
Doing great, man. Here in North Carolina, USA, we're beautiful day, about 82 degrees, and starting to get ready for summertime here.
It's actually warm over here in Ireland for the first time. Like it's never really warm here, but we're actually having a summer at the moment, which is rare
Okay.
because it's just normally rain, rain, rain here.
Right, right.
Yeah. Now, I've been looking up, obviously, bits and pieces on your career, but obviously the one thing that stands out to me is your personal stories that's well documented and out there, having survived cancer 3 times. So
Hmm.
I think that's the only fitting way to start. Do you want to tell people about your kind of battles, when it started, and how you overcame them?
Yeah, I had a right at a 20-year career in pro wrestling. Out of college, I went to train. It was a lifelong dream of mine to be a pro wrestler. When you're 10 years old, you think, yeah, okay. Uh, some kids play baseball, some kids play hockey, whatever. I wanted to wrestle. My dad was a big wrestling fan, so I got hooked as a young boy. And I did. I followed my dreams and went to wrestling school. Was trained by Nelson Royal and Gene Anderson um, back in 1987, and from there I took it to um, hit it just right. We went to WWF at the time and did TVs for the guys in WCW. But getting to the to what your question is, um, uh, 2006, I was still going strong. Wrestling. I mean, 3-4 times a week, and we have to get a physical here in the states to perform in certain different individual states in the United States, and Virginia was one of the ones, and the yearly physicals required. So I went to get it, and they unexpectedly found a place in my throat, down in my neck, which ended up being lymphoma, which is cancer of the blood. And so I immediately put my career on hold and fought it for a year and a half with chemotherapy and radiation. And thank God, cancer free at the time, and went on to back to my career in wrestling. And a short time later, 5 years exactly, I was hit again with the same cancer. And 2012, we went through that again with a bone marrow transplant. And then once again, got through that in 2016. It came back a third time, which is really rare. So my options running low, and uh, I guess the good Lord wasn't done with me because I'm still here to talk about it. We're working on 7 years in remission this last time, and I put away the boots for good about 12 years ago. I've done two benefits that were actually had a cause to them, and I was able to perform a couple of times in the past 12 years. But that's pretty much that as far as my health. Um, I'm 55 years old now, and I had a great run, like you said, opportunity to wrestle in the two big leagues in my career, and even the NWA at times when they never went away. They just got pretty much WCW came in and just took all the talent, but the
Yeah.
NWA is still there, and had a chance to wrestle for those guys in 1998 for about 2 years, and it's been great. It's been fun. Never did an ECW. Had an invitation to do that when it was hot, but I didn't. I decided not to do that. Financial reasons at the time, and also uh, I decided it probably wasn't a good decision with the hardcore stuff. But that was out there at one time to do. But other than that, it was independence and TVs basically. So all of that being said, total 1987 to about 2007, 2008. Um, my wrestling career was going strong, and had that one, uh, well, three bumps in a row with the cancer. But I just, thankfully, Lord, still here to talk about it and share with you my memories. So
Yeah.
here we are.
How do you spend your days now then? Now that you're out of the game totally, what do you do?
Um, I decided to take up work with a nonprofit. It's a homeless shelter here in the states. We're one of many throughout the country, and I'm able to give back in a different way. We provide food and shelter for the homeless community, and we have roughly between 400 and 450 men and women and children that we house. So it's a big ministry, and uh, when your heart's involved in something, it's not really a job. So
Yeah.
that was kind of laid out in front of me when I was after my third bout, and it just went. It was almost like unexpected blessing because I'm able to go every day now and share. And at times, we're working on getting some wrestlers in to speak to those guys because they're struggling. Some of them are under their recovery from their drug abuse. Some are just domestic situations for the ladies where they have to have a place of refuge to go and
Sure.
with their children. So it's not necessarily former drug addicts, if you will. It's all kind of situations. Somebody might have fell on hard times and lost their home or got evicted or whatever. We're there to pick it up and. So that's what I'm doing now. Not wrestling related, but it is a chance to give back and to help those that can't help themselves.
Yeah, homelessness is at an all-time high over here in
Really.
Ireland. Like, what's it like over there now at the moment with the cost of living and everything? Is that affecting you guys big time? Lots of
It
big
is
numbers.
in North Carolina. It's big, but they say the worst out west in LA and the California state. It's really huge. We just had a literally. I got back yesterday from a week-long meeting. We all the shelter, all the folks get together, the nonprofits, and we try to pick each other's brain and find out solutions. So the towns in California were leading by a mile. I mean, we think it's bad here, but in other places, the big cities in the, Detroit's and the LA's and Chicago's, it's really bad um, to the point where, I mean, such a need that we all try to come together and figure out what we can do to help those because, uh, whether it's the economy or whether it's, like you said, a hardship in their life or just, hard times. It's just we try to be that help that we can be and do our part to get those folks back on their feet. The invitation is always there. And like our CEO always says, there's always one more room. People say, do you have any room? There's always one more bed. We'll figure it out. If we have to bring one in, we will. But it's a great cause and it's a great chance to serve in a different way. And the wrestling goes great because so many of those men are wrestling fans. And sometimes when I speak to in the church service, we'll share wrestling testimony. And part of my story is wrestling. So it's better, not better, but it's a breakaway from your average sermon. Where the preacher comes in and tells you everything. It was more of a testimony type thing that the
Yeah,
guy enjoy that. So.
yeah. So you said that you started wrestling in '87, yeah?
Yeah, we piddled with it in '86,
Yeah.
but I got in a ring for the first time in '87, and
So
that's when I decided this is me. This is what I want to do. I was 23 years old, ready to go, um, and
in
it,
1989, though, 2 years later, you end up on the biggest platform in the world. Like, how does that happen? That's pretty
that
quick. Like,
it's all about timing. Vince had said to Nelson, I know you familiar with Nelson Royal,
yeah.
Gene Anderson, and pretty big names in the business, and we got through our session. Took about 6 months
Mm,
of training and working, and we had a lot of you know back then. It was more than just taking bumps and stuff. You had to really be in shape and get physically into it, and learn you know conditioning as well as psychology and wrestling. And Vince had made a call. Just timing, man. Wrestling timing is everything. And
yeah.
Vince said, need some new faces up here. And he used Nelson because he knew he could trust him, and he would send people up there who could bump and make his stars look good. And I came in just the right time, and I was part of that. I know 14 or 18 of us, and we go up, and we knew our role. We knew we were job guys. We knew we were enhancement talent, whatever. But we went up there, and it was like you talking about, um, you know, jumping in the pool, the deep end. That was big
Yeah.
time. The second match I ever had on national television was against Haku and Andre. So, I mean, it doesn't get much bigger than that.
Yeah.
And then my career started at Set Sail, and we were able to get in the ring with a lot of Hall of Famers and superstars. I've got a joke. Today I'll tell it to the guys and a lot of people, and they always say, "What did you use for a finishing move?" And I said, "Well, it went like this. I lay on my back. I said, 'Can you count to 3?'" And I beat up many Hall of Famers with that move there. He put them all out. So they get a kick out of that. I kind of pick at myself and in a fun way. And I know
Yeah.
my wife's like, you don't give yourself enough credit, but you did live a life that a lot of people. And it's true. I mean, but I don't
Yeah.
look at. Yeah, look at me, look at me. I knew my role and I knew what I was supposed to do, and had a
I
blast doing it.
yeah. I talked to you referred to that match there. I had it down on my little piece of paper here. One of your tag team partner that night, Paul Roma. He's
Yeah,
he's been on my show a good few times, Paul, and he said, well, Nobody's ever really won and lost a wrestling match anyway. You know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
So, and he was kind of having a little go at Ric Flair because Ric Flair was, 16-time world champion, and him and Paul don't get along. Let's just say that.
yeah.
But Paul was saying, well, you've never actually won any of those titles, Rick, and you've never actually lost anyone. You were told to win and you were told to lose. So I think like what you're saying there as well, maybe about not giving yourself enough credit. Like, did it bother you losing matches? Surely not when you're getting paid anyway.
The only time it bothered me, I never was one. I was not a big controversial guy. Tell me what I need to do. I'll do it. Hopefully it goes well, and we'll go home, do it again the next day. But the only thing that bothered me was, remember the Jim Herd era in WCW?
Yeah.
The Jim Herd. I was there about the time he came in, and some of the ridiculous character gimmicks, whatever you want to call them, and knowing that I had been there and kind of sort of had got my feet wet, I'd been grounded, and seeing him bring these ridiculous characters in, and I'm thinking, hey man, if you want to give someone a break, you know, I'll gladly take it. I mean, we've kind of paid our dues, but that was frustrating, and having to do jobs to the. I mean, I'm just going to say it. I mean, I had a job to PN News, Alan Iron Eagle, Van Hammer, uh, and nothing against those guys, but they were barely trained. I mean, it was like throw them in the fire and see what comes out. I mean, but that was the only frustrating part, is having to go out there and get beat by. And I knew I never give. I did what I did, but people say sometimes, "Could you have really won?" I said, "Well, probably some of them, but I wanted to have a job the next day. I knew what I was supposed to do." So that was frustrating, but I never had an ounce of problem doing what I was asked to do, um, and putting the guys over. I mean, I've got so many memories by that, and seeing the uh, it's almost surreal. You look back and go, wow, I got to wrestle Stone Cold Steve Austin in his first ever WCW match. He was
Yeah.
stunning Steve Austin. He made $500 that night because he was just trying to get a job. It was almost like a tryout, and I put him over, no problem, 1, 2, 3, and to see where he went with that, from that long-haired Hollywood, California, which he hated, character, but with even Lady Blossom, whatever, the valet, which is his wife at the time, to seeing him go and present Stone Cold to Eric. He went to Eric, and Eric's like, we can't do that. We can't market that. So he went to Vince and said, Vince is like, well, you got something, boom, instant, millions. And so that was cool. And, Andre speaks for itself. So that was neat. People say, you wrestled Andre. I said, well, I got in the ring with Andre. What much wrestling. I wrestled Haku, but, and, tagging with Paul was just an honor in itself. Just having him as a partner was cool. It could have been me and him against anybody, and that would have been cool. But
Yeah.
it happened
What
to be on
was
Haku. So
yeah. What was Paul like to work with? And that would say that first.
he was nice. We didn't he didn't know me from, I was just a guy coming in, another face. But uh, he did tell me. I'll tell you a quick funny story. He says, "You got with the boys yet?" I said, "Well, I'm getting ready to find out." It was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock, whatever. We have our catered meal and all that. And then I go to Haku and I said, Haku, I'm Chuck Coates. We've got, oh yeah, brother. Brother. And I'd watched him on TV, so I knew what he was going to do, but just knowing, hearing from him to make sure he didn't want to try anything new. He said, hey, brother, don't bother Andre when he's playing cards, and don't just wait till he comes to you. So I'm like, okay, just say it's 4 o'clock. The show starts at 7. Back then we did 3 tapes a night, whatever the challenge, WWF challenge, WWF, whatever, it was 3. And
Yeah.
we were third match on that show, and it was 10 minutes to 7, and I still haven't seen Andre. And I'm thinking, and now here we're at the right there, first match is getting ready to go, and I hear, where is he? It's Andre's voice. Haku's got him by the elbow, and he brings him and has me. Here he is. He looks at me after all that worrying about what is going to happen. I have talked to Andre. He says, I give you a big headbutt. You do not fall down. Do not take bump. That's all he said. And right then I thought, I've seen him do that on TV, so that's going to be easy. And we did it, and he shook my hand, which was amazing, because if they shake your hand afterwards and tell you thank you, that means you did well. And, of course, his hand covered my wrist. It was so big, and just so many awesome memories. So, don't bother Andre while he's playing cards. And I'm thinking, okay, that's all right. We'll just wait till about
Yeah.
5:30 or 6. No, Andre wasn't done playing cards. after his third bottle of wine, he finally got up and made his way toward me. So that was a
Yeah,
kind of a neat story, you know.
yeah. A lot of people told me that he kind of had a kind of free pass, I guess, from Vince to kind of do whatever he wanted. But whether he, like, if even if he was drinking, the sheer size of the man, obviously he could put it away. Like, he never seemed drunk when you look back on any of his matches or anything.
No, he could. I've never seen anything like it. The stories you hear are so true. You're talking about okay, you have basketball tall, 7'4" Shaquille O'Neal. That's big. I like
Mhm.
Ante tall, but you put 7 foot plus Andre and the width and size of him as far as his extremities, it is something you will never forget. No disrespect to anybody that's a large athlete. It's amazing. But Andre was like a walking refrigerator. I am serious. And anybody that ducks under a 7 foot door frame to come into a room, I mean, it was just in his fingers and everything about him was almost like a this is not a person. Somebody's controlling this man with a like he was
Remote.
a robot or something. And uh, thank the Lord we didn't have cell phones back then. I probably would have got kicked out of the locker room because I would have been I had to get picture with Andre, and that was unprofessional at the time. You didn't take photos backstage and all, but man, I wish I had just one of me and him together, other than YouTube. I've got a couple of screenshots,
Yeah.
but he was just
That-
a massive, massive human, and uh, it's a memory I'll never forget. Obviously,
Yeah, a lot of people say that to me, that, oh my God, I wish I had phones back then, especially when competitors that they were close with pass away and they maybe haven't seen them in a while, and then there's no kind of photos of guys together. So I totally understand it. But on the flip side of it, wrestling was an extremely serious business when you were breaking into it, not like now.
right? It very much was. I mean, excuse me. It was. We were at the going into the uh, I guess the last days of kayfabe when I was coming in, and WCW came along, and the steroid scoundrel came along, and you know everything just kind of went out there because there were so many uh, different uh, threats. Not
Connect.
well threats,
Yeah.
but just the fact that if this is not a sport, we're going to treat you like every other sport. We're going to start drug testing. We're going to start this. Whoa, Vince was like, whoa, this is more like a Broadway play. This is entertainment. So there you go. Okay, then. You had to have the people come for people to come pay to see you. You've got to look different. You got to be larger than life. And he knew that you know steroids is a big part of it. And I mean, I don't know about today, I guess, but like back then, people wanted to come see people that look like cartoon figures and stuff that they don't normally see in the everyday world. And that was part of the attraction of the business was the Ultimate Warriors and the Andre the Giants and the Kamalas, and it's just something you didn't see every day. And it was so people were drawn. I was drawn as a fan. I couldn't
Yeah.
wait till the next time. So and now, like you
And
said today, uh, there's great athletes. I don't have any problem. They're great athletes, but not much psychology. And I mean, how many times do you have to come off the top rope to beat a guy? I mean, good land. Uh, I just wish it made more sense, but that's just wishful thinking, I guess.
yeah, I think it's too kind of not every match has to be 100 miles per hour, as you say. Like, psychology comes into it, different things like that. And I just feel everything is very rushed these days, but that probably comes down to TV and commercials and various different things like that. Um, I still watch it, but I can't sit down and watch full shows. I gotta watch highlights. There's too much of
Um,
it on all the time. So that's the kind of boat I'm in. I
yeah,
much more enjoy talking to guys like yourself from back when it was different. I don't want to
yeah,
say when it was real wrestling, but you know what I mean.
yeah, exactly. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it's with that being said, I will tell you this: I watched the other night and saw that Gunther. Is that his name?
Oh,
Gunther.
he's great. He's great.
Very, very. He would have fit in
Yeah.
perfect with us. He would have fit in perfect
Hmm.
with us.
He's a
And I could
throwback.
watch it. I even thought about watching just to see his matches. I wish I could get a timer and say Gunther's coming on in 5 minutes. I could go switch over. But
He
very
wrestled
impressive.
over he wrestled over here in Ireland for years before he
Okay.
went over to WWE. There's a lot of footage on him wrestling on OTT here in Ireland. They had a lot of Jordan Devlin now is another one, an Irish guy who appeared on Raw a few weeks ago. For our
Yeah.
little small country of 4 million people, we've got like Sheamus, Becky Lynch, Finn Balor, Jordan Devlin, even one of the Raw announcers is Irish now. We're starting to take over there.
Yeah, you got a tough one too, Fit Finley. Boy,
Oh yes,
he is I've met him once. I never wrestled him, but I've had a chance to meet him, and I've seen him. I mean, brother, if you can't take it, don't get in there because he will light you up. A lot like Greg Valentine. Over here we have Greg Valentine. We've got Ronnie Garvin. The tough guys. I mean, and Wahoo McDaniel. I mean, Wahoo told me one night I wrestled him. And I was a Russian. I could do a good Russian. And so they told me to get the outfit because if you got a good big guy that can do the accent, I mean, hey, if I can pull it off. So there was about 250 Russian assassins. But Wahoo told me he hit me with that. He said, "Give it back, boy," and he meant give it back. He didn't want no work punch. He hit me, I hit him, and it was like a fight without punching each other. We were just killing each other in the corner. And I thought, I'm giving him everything I have, and he's not even flinching. So I knew right then, this is the way. These guys are tough as nails, and I can see why in the real world, if they were having to defend themselves, that they could do pretty well. I've heard stories about Barbarian and Haku, Barbarian, cleaning out bars and picking up cars, and somebody illegally parked and blocked them in one night, and two or three of them got together, picked the car up, put it on the sidewalk so they could get out. Warlord, Barbarian, and somebody else might have been one of the Road Warriors, but they picked the car up and moved it. And I'm like, I mean, so just amazing men and amazing athletes and just tough as shoe leather. And to think Haku's been said to be the toughest, that's just, and I'm so excited I get to reunite with him in August. That's going to be exciting. I've been invited to Andre the Giant's memorial. It's a celebration for Andre in his hometown where he lived in North Carolina.
excellent.
In Ellerby. Yes, his daughter will be there, and Haku will be there, and some of the other $1 Million Man. And I've been invited because I was one that wrestled him. So that's going to be so awesome. I can't wait. I'll take photos so you can see them. And
Yeah, be a nice reunion for people. Are you in the convention world? Are you doing any of these conventions? It's a big, massive thing over there as well.
I do. Now, I'm not really. I'm not one of the. What I do, I help, and I don't ever sign the autographs. I'm real good friends with one of the agents who brings a lot of the guys in. We're leaving Friday for Jacksonville, Florida, going to a convention, and we'll have Ron Simmons, we'll have the Steiners, we'll have I think he's got Daniel Bryant coming, and
Excellent.
Paige from the movie, and she's good. She was good. I liked her too. Good worker. And who else is going to be down there? Lex Luger. So I'm a handler, I guess you could say. And I'll go to ones around my hometown, and some people say, "Hey, you're Chuck." I was like, "Yeah." And I mean, it ain't nothing formal. It's always informal when they notice me, but locals will, they always know you from. A lot of them I went to high school with. A lot of them just saw me on the independent scene, but it's kind of neat. But my main job with the conventions is being basically a handler, making sure I collect money and you know get everybody squared away on their packages or whatever they end up buying. So, but
Yeah.
that's fun. It keeps me connected to the business. And,
Yeah. Exactly. Any memories of conversations with Vince McMahon? He's always an interesting character of choice.
Not Andre. I was walking down the back. The only encounter we ever had. He left his You never saw him much in the back. He had left and headed towards uh, one way, and I was heading toward the other way. Just me and him, nobody else in the hallway. I don't know which arena it was. It was back in the late '80s. And I said, "Mr. McMahon, thanks for having me." He said, "Well, thank you for coming." And he acknowledged me, and that was it. Other than that, it was behind closed doors. I never really got close to him. It was more of Stephanie. She was running. She was kind of had a big part when I got there. Um, the second time, I mean, 80, 88, 89, or 89, 90. And then it was like a 10-year gap. And then they called back.
Hmm.
I went back when Rock was just the Nation of Domination and Scotty Too Hotty and during that time. And so I
Yeah.
was there another year or so. And, um, you know, worked with those guys, some of those guys later on, and Sean O'Hare wrestled him, and uh,
You wrestled Kurt Angle as well one of the times he came
Kurt.
back in a dark match. What was it like to get into the ring with someone
Man,
like him?
if you ever find that match, let me know because I know sometimes they video those and they show up on YouTube. It was neat. We were. I spoke with him about it last Thanksgiving. He was at one of these meet and greets, and I went over. I said, "Kurt, you won't remember me, but but he remembered the town and he remembered the dark matches because he said, I know I had about 3 months of those to get me ready for TV. And so, here I am, kind of the sacrificial lamb, getting in there with Olympic gold medalists who they're trying to teach how to work it. He knows
Hmm.
all the stuff about wrestling, but to teach him how to use it, not kill somebody, it was fun. We ended up they gave us 7 minutes, and that includes 7 minutes. That means you got set up to finish, do everything. Angle slam was it. Well, about 7 minutes, I'd been wrestling long enough to notice it was long. And Kurt says, "Are we about ready?" He said, "I haven't got nothing yet," because he had the earpieces in.
Mm.
Anyway, we got back to the back, did the finish, and we got back and Bruce Pritchard stopped me and says, "You guys pulled that off. Good job." He said, JR was standing there. He says, "You guys had 7, but we gave you 12 because when we go live on TV, we might have something come up where Kurt needs to carry the match. We wanted Kurt to carry the match without information and see if he could handle it." So we went the extra 5 minutes unannounced because in a situation like that, you got to learn how to, improvise. And they were very happy with it. We just got more heat. I mean, he said, "Just stay on me." And we kept on. And that was kind of cool because it was a match. It wasn't a job match. It was
Mm.
a whole match. It was 12 minutes. I got heat on him for about 3 or 4 minutes. And he came back and it was, uh, that was that. But he did remember once I told him where it was and when it was. Yeah, yeah. So and he remembered the fact that we went longer than we were supposed to. So that was neat that he remembered that. Um,
Yeah.
and but that was an honor, wrestling, seeing where his career went too. Because at that point, they weren't sure how the people were going to respond. Being a real wrestler, and Kurt just had charisma. He had everything, and because sometimes they do it and it's a flop. You know what I mean? It doesn't work.
Yeah.
But Kurt made it work, and he was so funny as I watched him later on with the playing the dummy. The
The
goofball.
comedy stuff. Yeah.
Oh man, what a time! That was so good. People loved it. They ate it up. And when he did a rap battle with John Cena and all that, man, it was
Yeah.
so good. Yeah.
Did you ever have any interactions with the Undertaker backstage?
Other than speaking to him, that was it. I did see him at Ric Flair's last match. He was one of the guests, and backstage he kind of stayed distance, but he came out for Flair's match. Got seated. He had 2 security guys to make sure nobody messed with him. It's him and Foley. Uh, Foley, Taker. Uh, who else was there?
Brett was
Diamond
there, was he?
Dallas Page. Huh? What's that?
Brett. Brett.
Brett was there. Diamond Dallas Page was there. Kid Rock was there, and we sat all around them. It was kind of neat. They all came in for his last match, and of course Conrad was on the front row, and they did the deal. But that was the other time I saw him, but didn't really talk to him. Um, he's It was one of those things where I was out when he was coming in, and vice versa. I did
Hmm.
see him here and there, but um, uh, the second time I came back, it was just he had pretty much his own dressing room. He was like when I first got there in 88, 89, Hogan was the one and it was, let me tell you this too. I worked with the Haku and Andre. The finish was the kick and the bump and then elbow. And Hogan met me at the gorilla position. I came back through and, "Hey brother, he got my arm." This is Hulk Hogan now. You know how huge he was then. "How was that kick, brother?" That's how he talked. I was like, "It was okay. I'm fine." He said, "Like he kicked your head off, man. That was a good job." And he complimented me. And I'll never forget that. That was kind of cool, you know. And not often does Hulk Hogan come up to you your second match and compliment you. So um,
Yeah.
that was cool. That was a cool memory. And I got
Yeah.
Boss Man and Akeem, and Bad News Brown, and Bolsheviks, and uh, Powers of Pain, and later on, like I told you, Scotty Tuati and Sean O'Hare, and it was fun, man. We were all over the place and having a good time. And that Ghetto Blaster, wow, that was tough.
the you mentioned the man earlier there. Like people always have contrasting reports of him, and just while you mentioned Hulk Hogan, I think everyone has got positive stories to tell about Hulk. But the Ultimate Warrior is one that's kind of out
Yeah,
there. Did you find what? How did you find him?
he he. We didn't really speak. I had been told he was a hothead, so I left him alone. I didn't want to bother him. Um, no, really no personal, uh, I guess, meeting, if you will, other than seeing him in the back. And But Brett was nice. Brett gave me a pair of glasses. I actually asked him. I had a son, so at the time, good lane at the time, he was 3. And I just said, can I get a pair of those glasses? And I kind of bold me to do that. And he went right to the suitcase and got them. I don't know where they're at today. I wish I had them. Wouldn't that be cool to have an original pair?
Yeah.
And so he gave me a pair. And so other than that, I mean, Ultimate Warrior just pretty much, he did kind of stay to himself. Same for Brock Lesnar. I'd heard that, he was okay, but I don't know. You hear rumors. Everybody does. And didn't really speak to him. It was like, if anything, how you doing? That was it. Benoit was quiet. Triple H was quiet. People that you really wanted to talk to, but you want to be professional. Rey Mysterio was amazing. I'm gonna tell everybody. Every time I do these, he is one of the 2 nicest wrestlers, big stars that I've ever met. Went out of his way to be nice. Went out of his way to get a photo, which I didn't ask for my little boy, and super nice. Treated me like I was somebody. Bobby Eaton was the other one. Beautiful Bobby was amazing, amazing man. I guess you've heard a lot. I mean, he's like no other. Just overly nice to the point where they wanted to make sure they left an impression on you where you would talk about them later in a good way. Those 2 there were my top 2 that were really just amazing people to be around in a positive way.
What do you think the main difference was in the locker room between, say, 1989 when you got in there and then when you went back in like 99 2000s?
Well, it's the biggest difference was probably it was just a different the first time I was young starting out, and I looked at it as almost like I wouldn't say I was starstruck, but I was almost like, is this really happening type moments, and you got access to anywhere in the back, you didn't even have to wear a badge or anything. People get your stuff on, they see your boots, whatever, nobody bothered you. But the second time, it was more laid back at the Attitude Era, and I was more mature in the business. It wasn't much of a difference as far as that side of it. With me personally, I was a little bit more, I was told to be nice, compliment, do everything you can to just take bumps, do what they ask you to do if you ever want to get somewhere. And so the second time around, I was a little more talkative, maybe. I'd say the culture didn't change much as you would think. It was pretty much the same. You buffet, you go eat, hang out. Maybe possibly I would say a little more friendlier the second time. The environment was a little more welcoming, if you will. And that may have been my fault because, like I said, I was standoffish. I didn't want to. Last thing I want to do was rub somebody the wrong way or go to a locker room I'm not supposed to be in. But and kayfabe was a big thing too. Back when I was the first time, it was no matter what, you didn't leave that locker room, and no matter what, you if you left and go get something to eat or go to work out or whatever, you reported to them, let them know it, and you had to be back at a certain time. And a lot more leniency the second time. Another quick story I'll share with you is Mike Howell was one of my best friends. We broke into business together. He was actually one of the Dups. You ever heard of the Dups?
Yep.
Okay. He had got a contract with WWF at the time, and they were doing the same thing, dark matches. And we walked around the corner heading to go eat, and Rock was there, and he had a wife beater tank top, Miami Dolphin shorts, and his gym bag. And he knew Mike from being on a contract. Mike had been around a couple of months. He says, Mike, what you got going on? And he says, nothing much. We're going to go eat. And Rock, he said, I want you to meet my friend Chuck. He's here. And, Rock put his bag down. Dwayne Johnson, nice to meet you. Shook hands and we chatted. He says, what are you guys doing? We're going to eat. He says, do you want to go to the gym with me? I could use a spot. And Mike says, what do you want to do? I said, well, I kind of want to go eat. Rock said, no problem, no problem. I could have went and worked out with the Rock. But I didn't. I don't know. Mike he left it up to me because he saw him every day, and I was just in for TV. So my wife's like, "Are you crazy?" I said, "Well, Scorpion King was his only movie then. I had no idea."
Yeah. If you knew then what you know now, the guy's in every single movie that comes out now, isn't he? He's a
Yeah,
megastar.
I probably would definitely do it the second time. I would have went with him and forgot the food. But
Yeah.
you know, it's one of those things where I guess maybe I was a little bit intimidated, a whole lot intimidated. But the fact that he asked if we want to go to the gym with him, that was so cool, and wish I could have that back.
Yeah. You referenced that. I know we're kind of running out of time now, so we'll finish on this one. But you mentioned earlier the obviously you were Steve Austin's first televised match in WCW, part of history as well when you look back on it, and something that can't be taken away from you. Do you have any memories about meeting him? And you kind of referenced earlier that he kind of wasn't happy with the character. Do you have any insight on that?
No, I just from documentaries I've seen and from his.
Okay.
Yeah, he didn't tell me that. I did when I went back the second time. Austin's 316 was wide open. I mean, wide open. This is the time he was standing on top of the truck. He was smashing beers together. They sprayed Vince with the beer. I was there that night. So
Oh, really?
during the height of Austin, I went back to the back, get ready, and I saw him back there, and he was walking around talking to everybody. I finally called him. I waited for him to get done. I said, Steve, you don't remember me, but I'm Chuck Coates and da da da. We wrestled your first match. And, well, I'll be damned, son. He said, how the hell you been doing? And I mean, he was really cool. He remembered. He said, I remember that, blah, blah, blah. I said, we talked about 5 minutes, and he remembered. He didn't remember me personally. He remembered the match. I said, well, I was the one you were in there with. Well, hell, thank you for making me look good. And da, da, da. Just really cool moment in my, and I said, it's good to see you where you are today. He said, well, I appreciate that, blah, blah, blah. And it was cool when I reminded him who I was. He was like, well, I'll be damned, son. And that was really neat. And I think it's really cool how his gimmick came about, with his wife and a tea.
Mm.
You know that story?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
When she was his manager for a while, wasn't she?
Then she brought his tea. They were married. She brought his tea in, yeah, Lady Blossom, and told him he better drink it before it gets stone cold. She's from England, I think. And Stone Cold, he went, Stone Cold Steve Austin. I think that's exactly how it happened. And saw that again on the documentary as well. But I think that's neat that you drink your tea before it gets stone cold. And that was it. But he
Part of
was nice,
history.
very nice to me. Uh,
So
and I
you were
mean,
there. You were there that night that the beer truck happened.
the
That's
beer truck.
one of the most iconic moments. What were you doing that night? Were you working as an extra or what?
Yeah, yeah. I wrestled. I may have been off that night. They still pay you. You show up. You could be paramedics. You could be police. You could be separate a fight. You could just be whatever. But there was times when I didn't even dress out. They're like, "You're going to
Yeah,
be working security tonight by the ring and or whatever." But I don't remember what I did that night. But that was cool. And they came in with a Zamboni. Was it Zamboni? He drives it in and gets up. Yeah, that night they drove it in, made sure it was good. They rehearsed all that. He did his whole spiel, and then of course they had the beer involved in the live part. And then I was there tonight. They spray painted DX spray painted the was it the Rock's car? Spray painted DX all over.
yeah, probably yeah. And
Yeah,
there was a few crazy things like
yeah,
DX blew up, or no, Austin blew up DX's bus one night, and
yeah,
it was all kinds of crazy shit. I missed that. I missed that stuff in wrestling though. That kind of
yeah.
thing. The craziness of it.
Right.
Look, man, it was great to talk to you today. I know we're kind of stuck for time today, but we might catch up again at some point and
Yeah.
go through a few more memories. Absolute pleasure to have you on today, man. Thank you.
You're welcome. Please don't hesitate to contact me. We can go on a while because I love talking about my wrestling career and maybe I'll share a few stories later on.
Exactly. We still have a lot more to cover anyway.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, man.
Thanks. Yes, sir.